My name is Arno Pernthaler. I'm from the DC Institute based in Switzerland. We are a professional certification body as well as society for experts and professionals that are entering or either working in the blockchain industry already. Let me open up this panel by quickly introducing who is with us here today. So firstly, we have Engel. He's a product manager at SAP. Then we have Tobias Bauer. He's a partner at the Blockchain Founders Fund, as well as Oege, a manager at Deloitte Consulting, as well as Graf from Arvato Systems, a subsidiary of Bertelsmann company. And then lastly, Busch from the Bosch company. So welcome everyone on stage. So today we are going to discuss Web3 adoption. I guess that's also one of the many topics being discussed on panels today. But here specifically, we are looking at industry adoption. And with industry adoption, we mean traditional, already established corporations that are known either from the traditional finance world or the Web2 world, in terms of what investments and which projects they are involved in. And we try to shed a light on the different areas here. So let me start with a quick view from my side. I personally, in terms of enterprise adoption in Web3 and crypto, started my career similar as Shan at Deloitte actually many years ago. And I started working at the Deloitte EMEA Blockchain Center for Excellence in Dublin, where we have consulted many enterprises on the adoption of blockchain. Now, back in the days, projects were very much focused around permissioned chains, right? Where we tried to almost include all kinds of products and transactions on a permission chain for whatever reason. And soon we figured out probably blockchain is not the right solution for every problem. Now, I would like to understand, considering that I have moved away from the enterprise and supply chain world, I would like to ask my first question, to Simon from SAP. If you could give us, potentially an idea of how enterprise blockchain and enterprise adoption looks like today in 2023.
Thanks, Arno. Okay, it's working perfect. So on your question, I think one very important aspect to consider is really like, where does the innovation come from the enterprise, right? So I think 2019, a lot of things were driven out of innovation units, specifically from a corporate perspective. And what I see personally is that now also the core business, especially in SAP, is now starting incubating blockchain-based solutions. For example, currently a so-called SAP Digital Currency Hub. On the other side, I think there were some POCs that actually also survived in the supply chain game and are now really in production. So there has been progress in terms of adoption and finding customer for those use cases. One example would be a green token solution for mass balancing in the supply chain. But also said that, I think there's still a long way to go in terms of explaining the value add and really driving a business outcome for our customers in terms for the solution, because you cannot lead just with the technology and the hype it creates. You also need a tangible outcome for the business who does want to use it. Yeah. Not sure if anybody does want to chime in on that.
Yeah, I think there are different solutions in the market at the moment. You said already it's mostly driven from innovation, but I also see marketing as one of the driving factors at the moment, especially when we look into loyalty with Lufthansa, even for the German market, the Uptrip app. And I would say that Arvato Systems and also Bertelsmann have been driving this whole innovation process a lot in many different divisions, also from our investment side. With the B3 Hub for Arvato systems, we try to create products where Web3 really is an extension. So it is part of the digital transformation that we have been doing like for many, many years now, including also, of course, topics like Metaverse and AI, where we see a fusion of different technologies that really need to know products. So for us, when we look at products, it's not mainly focused on the technology, but on the product and what technology we have to use. Is it blockchain because it helps, for example, in federalistic systems, or for loyalty in the future when we have the interoperability for tokens? I always foresee like my journey, you fly Lufthansa, then you go to Starbucks, and you can really use both tokens because they are both on Polygon. So this is like for the loyalty level. On the other side, for luxury products, we see that the market has been thriving for many years now and still is, since we use it there for the certificate of authenticity, and the different use cases show us what we need, whether it's a blockchain or a distributed ledger or hyperledger technology. And I think this is what companies also still have to learn, that there are many solutions, but we first have to look at the product and what we really need.
Let me maybe comment on that as well, definitely, because what you always said, we have to as well look from the solution side, absolutely. So we, as a classical industrial corporation, we have to look really on the use case and really on the value add on the industrial side. And so we really fight at the moment with the, I would say, the hype character still with blockchain. And so I really avoid the term blockchain in the meantime. So I say we need to use decentralized systems in the future, definitely more. And we go from the use case. So whatever works, yeah, as a decentralized system in opposite really to the real centralized system, you know them all, what I mean with that. So then we're gonna go use case based on that, and the main expression or the main keyword for me here is interoperability. So we really go into anyone what makes sense. It may be Polkadot, may it be Ethereum, may it be Cosmos, or anything like that. Whatever helps. And if they then are interoperable in the end, yeah, that we're going to use this use case on that side, this use case that. Here we're going to use Hyperledger, there we're going to use anything else. At the end, it really is the value that comes out of it. And of course, we have to convince still our top management that they really understand blockchain, isn't that only dark market and all that stuff? You know this discussion still. And the CO2 debate, it doesn't help here anyway as well. So really we go from the technical side, what is the use case, what is the value and the element, and at the end, okay, which of the system will win, we'll see.
Interesting. Let me quickly bring a question to Jean. I know I'm not sitting next to you, so it's quite hard to listen to a moderator here back on the screen, but I will continue being dominant to keep my leadership as the moderator of the panel. Jean, you are working at Deloitte. Back in the days when we looked at supply chain projects on blockchain adoption in that space, we had an issue which was the payment lag. So mostly information had been shared as a transparency layer, but there was no option to involve payments to actually make sure that we have real-time settlement versus delivery. Has that changed now? Are we able now to even transact value in a supply chain use case in enterprise?
Yeah, so I think also adding to what my fellow panelists said, so 2016 to 19, maybe we had a lot of focus on exactly what you just said. How can we track individual goods along the value chain? How can we assure authenticity and integrity, etc.? But the real value that we anticipated also at that time wasn't really there. We felt, okay, now we have some data and distributed systems. What do we do with it? And then we came to the discussion of how can we bring the cash leg in there, how do we do payments, etc. So I think we have a couple of puzzle pieces that are now gravitating towards each other and bringing a more coherent picture into the market. And I think it's still sort of being developed in individual initiatives. So the financial services industry is building infrastructure and services, also given the regulatory developments for the whole cash part, digital money solutions, etc. And on the other side, and that's my hope, that industrial companies and everyone else who wants to create the ultimate customer value doesn't get either bored or sort of tired of pushing the applications that we've just discussed, because in the end they will meet, and then I think we will unlock additional value. It will take, I think, a bit more time just because of also the regulatory topics. If we want to have payments or cash on DLT systems, etc., there's a way to go, but as soon as they meet, I think we have a different picture.
And
here.
I think it's also super cool to work together. I think this is very important. We have also been doing this for many months now, and to see this collaborative mindset, I think this is also, it goes with interoperability, also with different industries, that we really look into how can we help Germany or Europe to really develop this together. And I have to say that our partnership in this way for the leadership circle for Bertelsmann has been really amazing. We're still developing, we're going further, we're exploring which technology helps us where, and this is what I mainly see blockchain will be useful for in the future if we discover that this collaboration might be easier when we do it through blockchain.
Great. Thank you very much for those comments. Now let me move the conversation a little bit further, right? We talked about enterprise blockchain, which is something, almost like outdated nowadays, because we more speak about Web3 technology. Now, Web3 technology means a little bit more than just supply chain traceability and payment versus delivery, right? We are moving in a different area of the internet. Now, what that really means, maybe I would ask Tobias, considering your investment profile, you might have come across several projects in your past that on one side are looking more at the typical enterprise world. On the other side, you probably came across projects that looked at the transition from Web 2, which is a more static Web 2, and social Web 2, Web 3, where it's more about transferring value and keeping privacy and owning your own assets. So how would you explain Web 3 from an industry perspective or from an institutional perspective?
Yeah, thank you so much for the question, and good to be here. I hope you guys can hear me as I'm calling out of Singapore.
We do.
But yeah, basically, I mean, we're an investment firm. We've been around since 2018, and we've invested in, I think, now 150 companies in the space. And obviously, there's a very clear shift of how the space has been changing, especially when we look at sort of more the B2B enterprise plays. And I think, although we invested quite a bit in about 2018, 2019 into pure blockchain companies, as you guys just have been discussing, supply chain tracking, even stuff in music industry, to track royalties and many others, we now see a shift basically in two ways. Now, on the Web3 side of things, where most of the companies are either supplying or having their own native token, meaning some sort of cryptocurrency, which is part of their solution. But also a lot of companies are just supplying those companies, right? So they don't necessarily have a token of their own. What they're doing is they're building out certain solutions in order to enable companies to transact value or to store value or to deliver value. And that's like what probably right now is things, companies look at the most. So for example, what we see right now a lot is, security plays, right? We've all seen that within enterprises, exchanges, staking protocols and all these things, what is typically used by B2B plays, that there's still massive gaps within the security side. So we look at, smart contract auditing firms. We look at a lot of AI-related tools, which is now also a hot topic, of course, for everyone, of how can this be supported. And that goes even further than in a lot more deeper sort of domains, what we typically find within DeFi, right, within decentralized finance. And then, of course, it can go very, very deep, right? It can go from trading solutions to lending solutions. A big topic right now is also real-world assets, right? How to tokenize loans, derivatives, real estate, even really tangible assets you can see, such as wine, watches. I mean, there's a lot of different plays out there where people try to give investors a different asset class to invest in. However, that is typically only happening on a crypto institutional level, right? If you look at the Fortune 500 companies or within Europe, Germany, any other listed company which has a decent size, they're not necessarily very much engaging with it, right? I think the biggest adoption, what we've seen now on an enterprise level, sort of from the Web 2.5 perspective, is that a lot of bigger asset managers are trying to get exposure to Bitcoin, right? We've recently seen the fake news of, I think, Cointelegraph, I think whatever it was, that some larger asset managers got approval for Bitcoin ETFs, and that spiked the price by, I think, 4 or 5%. A lot of people lost money because they converted the USDC into Bitcoin. So we still see how fragile the market is. And I think right now that's probably the biggest challenge, is that everything which is transacting within crypto is a complete isolated industry, right? There's no new capital flowing in. Most of the capital is actually flowing out, which makes it difficult for cryptocurrencies or Web3 in that case to gain traction. Although still a lot of founders are building great companies, the institutional adoption is still very, very surface level within Web3, not so much blockchain as we discussed, but in Web3, it's still very surface level. A couple of people getting excited using it. We've seen some companies using to engage their users or build different aspects to it. But overall, I would say the institutional adoption for Web3 is still very, very limited, and is not going to change unless we have a regulatory clarity or as we have sort of a more stable market and larger player having a stronger commitment to the success of it.
Yeah, thank you, Tobias. Let me hold you off
Can I chime in for a second? Because we're talking about adoption, and Peter and I were already pointing this out. I think it's very dangerous when we always talk about this investment aspect, where it's more about the infrastructure. And I think this really has to be distinguished a lot more to make it attractive for companies to even go into this. When we are talking at the moment about adoption of Web3, we're not talking about Bitcoin or volatility. This is really a different topic. We're talking about a solution where we have a distributed ledger, maybe as a blockchain, to really solve problems that exist in the market. Like in Hamburg, we're talking about aviation, digital passports. This is all coming, and we have to solve these problems. And for some products, we just need transparency. So this is far away, and it's really dangerous, because when you go to your CEO or whatever, and you come with this, no, Bitcoin is not doing it. It's so far away from where we see at the moment also finding solutions for digital assets in Metaverse or whatever. It's not about how high Bitcoin or how low it is, and we really have to distinguish between these two topics. This is very, very important in my point of view.
Can really just underscore that. Really, really very important, that point, because it's about the technology and about the value. And we see that Bosch, and I see it in other big corporations as well, in the classic industry, they really, really, really downturn on that discussion all the time. Yeah, because FTX and now the current things that's happening, they always get these headlines in the newspapers, and then whoops, everything is gone. And are really fighting every day to get to a new discussion in that fight. And because I like now the expression Web3, because that goes a little bit more in this direction, away from the investment hype stuff, Bitcoin and all that. I'm a big fan of Bitcoin, yeah, not to say. Really, I like the technology behind it as well. However, it's all about, when you talk about Web3 these days, digital identity, for example. The real usage of our end users in the future, of our machines, of our machine-to-machine economy, this all boils down to the really practical application of distributed systems, decentralized systems, and exactly digital identity. And as well in the future, all this AI stuff, LLMs, generative AI, and so all will depend on cool working decentralized systems, identity, and trust, and the safety and security coming with it. So that's really thank you really for that statement. Now,
maybe to add there, I think the question from a technology perspective is like, what does this technology really enable? Then the industry needs to come in, or also like we can only encourage startups to come in and show use cases that actually have a real value to the enterprise. And maybe it sounds a little bit harsh, but we need to move away from, oh, NFTs, they're hyped, the price is skyrocketing, and when to moon and when do I get my Lambo? This is not the conversation you have with an enterprise, right? It's really, really rational. You need to have a bulletproof business case and say, look, using this solution, we can save X amount. And I think this is also something maybe the industry needs to understand, and maybe it's also a learning process for everybody. How can we actually, what can we do with this new technology? And I see there's still a long way to go. Yeah.
Let me quickly hold off the panel just a quick, because I think these are very, those things we discussed quite often, right? That, Bitcoin is not enterprise blockchain. That's nothing new here. So I was about to hold off Tobias, not to go too far into the crypto world. I wanted to actually bring you guys back to the enterprise world. So for me, interesting, before we go into the topic of media and entertainment, because that's now a lot in the news, and I think Shan and Anna have a lot to tell us about that, where I'm very keen to learn more. I want to understand a little bit more, what does Web3 really mean for an organization like Bosch? Bosch, right, you are actively investing in the space. Web3 is a transition from Web2 to the Web3 internet. Now, how do you see Web3 inside a large organization like Bosch, and what does that mean?
Yeah, I just said it. At the moment, the main killer use case is identity. Really digital, decentralized digital identity. So with all the EU regulation coming up, the EU, the Data Act and all the GDPR stuff coming around, what we see in the industry and looking at the car manufacturers, which are one of our most important customers in the automotive still, is really the look into the practical application of this new step, evolutionary step from Web 2, all the centralized servers, all the social network stuff and so, into a new machine-to-machine economy. And as Bosch is one of the biggest suppliers and biggest machine manufacturers worldwide, we see it really, really very much important that we come to a new technology step here, where really we have a more decentralized system out there, maybe a hybrid system to Web 2. So I really like the 2.5 expression as well, yeah, because we are not at Web 3. We have a long way to go, as you just said. And just boil it down really to preparing for a much more data-driven economy in the future. Yeah, data is a new oil. You can't hear it anymore. However, it's still true for us. And who owns the data, who can monetize the data, and you can do it really only when it's really clear where the data comes from, who generates the data, and just looking into the AI technology or an AI future. Yeah, that's really, really concerning a lot. All of my industry peers think, okay, where does this lead to? When you see at the moment already all that fake stuff in the internet with the AI coming up. And then we go in the industrial step, and where we need to use all this AI model and stuff. This is not a very bright future we see. Yeah? And we need to save and secure that with cool, new, really decentralized technology, talking about IDs all the time, but as well other generative AI models secured with Web3 technology. Really know from whom the data is, to whom it goes, who pays for it, who gets paid. And this is the real application that we see as Bosch.
All right, cool. Thank you very much for explaining that. Now, I completely understand that the digital identity, especially a decentralized identity, might be quite helpful for accessing Web3 services, right? At the end, it's this ownership of keeping your own data and accessing Web3 application, potentially in combination with a wallet, and that allows me then to do peer-to-peer transactions, through all kinds of tokens, and so forth. So how does that look in the entertainment business? Maybe Anna, you could explain us a little bit more. What did you mean initially with all those incentives that you talked about, and how is that linked now to Web3 and digital identities?
Okay, many topics here, but you built the perfect bridge because for us, Bertelsmann has a lot of IP rights with RTL, BMG, etc. And exactly what you just started talking about, fake news, fake identities, really also could harm our own IP. It's something like, yeah, well, this sounds like Rihanna. It's done by AI. Well, probably this AI was trained with material that didn't belong to the people who used it after. And we really have to secure that the initial data comes from the source where it should be coming from in the end. Next year, elections in the United States. NFT Now is working on that besides other companies, of course, because this will be dramatic if we have like this amount of fake news that we cannot track anymore. So Numbers Protocol is, I think, working on this. A lot of protocols have really started working on how can I identify the source. It's still trash in, trash out, of course. So we need a platform where we kind of funnel that. This is more like the Web2 solution again. But this means also we need the trusted players. And I think this is also what we are standing for here, why I want to work together with SAP, the NFT Launchpad that is then integrated into CRM. And there it comes all together. We have existing systems. And we need to see how digital transformation works as an add-on, not as something that completely revolutionizes the market. It's an evolution step by step, and we need this infrastructure to really move forward to tackle the problems that are coming up. And this goes into media as well. I really like, for example, we talk about business models. I'd like the use case for Movieverse from Warner Brothers, which is a totally additional source of income because they distributed Lord of the Rings and I think the movie Flash, additionally to all the existing streaming, cinema, whatever things. So, but now you own this movie not as a DVD, but as a digital piece in your digital library that saves you a lot of space also, and you can trade it on the secondary market, and Warner always receives 10% royalties. And Grimes, she just said, yeah, you can use my music, but then I want 50%. But we need to ensure that this money arrives at the person. And I think that blockchain can be a very helpful solution for that. And yeah, this is what we have been discussing also in our leadership circle together with Deloitte of how we can really track this and make it useful so that we earn money in the end. Because you know, what Simon says, if we don't make money in the end, why should we do that?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, in the entertainment business, it's all about making money, as you all know. And we've
not only there.
Yeah, no. But in the end, I mean, what we've observed, and everyone here as well, I think a lot of artists and media companies or content creating companies have tried out different solutions. They did NFT things, Metaverse, and so on. And I think from a large conglomerates perspective, such as Bertelsmann, it's all about mapping out the stakeholder sort of landscape. Whom are we catering our services to? Who benefits from our platforms, from our solutions? So the artists and of course the consumers in the end as well. So we looked at different dimensions and what can we cater to them? How would they engage with our new solutions, and where can we add value? And I think in the next years, it will be all about content integrity as well, so what you mentioned, because that somehow, suddenly popped up. We suddenly had to deal with, okay, is this content actually real? Is it from Rihanna or whoever? And are the wrong people making money out of this? So this brought in an additional layer of complexity. I think we didn't really expect in the past 5 years. And now this is one element, and the other element, of course, looking at the end consumers, what is their ultimate benefit? So I think the example of owning this token of a movie and so on, goes very much into the collectible topic, and this is something that exists since probably, I don't know, a couple of 100 years, likely. People collected things and had some personal value attached to it. But now the question is, how do we bring in real-life utility? And I want to just share an anecdote. We work a lot also with football clubs. And they, of course, as you can imagine, 1 or 2 years ago, it was all about we have to bring out NFTs and club token. And then the question was, okay, what's the ultimate value to the fan? And that was one question, the obvious one. And the other one was who actually buys these products. And we found out that many people who buy these club token, or NFTs are people mostly associated with the crypto landscape, just trading crypto and trying to maximize short-term value. So we figured, okay, we do not even address the target group that we want to address and create the value. So I think it's all about looking, okay, how do we target our new ideas to the actual benefiting
and
customers.
2 seconds, and this is the entry point, and this is why we as Arvato, for example, think that apps like Uptrip and what we are also building at the moment with our app loyalty 3.0 is something where people are used to that are not coming from the crypto space, that are not even interested in whether this is an investment opportunity or not. And we have RTL Plus as an app that is running very well. So we need to combine like the things that people know also with our Sissy NFT for RTL. It was promoted through Instagram and newsletters, not through Discord. So we have to go where the people are, exactly what you said, and find them there and then give them a product that helps. Digital identity, how crazy cool would it be if I don't use another password or cookie and all these things. So there are actual solutions to problem that, to be honest, I am always like, oh my God, new password, cookie again, etc. So, and there we can really find things that help you in your everyday life. And in the end, it's about convenience for the consumer. You don't have enough time. You want products to really be scalable, to be easy to use. And this is what we have to work on.
To that point, I think this is really crucial, making the user experience for the everyday user much easier and getting things done he does want to get done, right? He doesn't care about the technology underneath. I mean, maybe it's a question to the audience, so I'm really curious to find out. So, like, who in this room has a wallet?
I think in this room.
Very good. Who in this wallet, like, keep your hand raised. Who in this room enabled their family to use it? Much less. Who in this room enabled their company to use blockchain?
Here.
Now, let me quickly bring the conversation back to the panel. I'm very much appreciative.
Still a long way to go.
But I think we didn't treat it, Tobias, quite well, right? I mean, everyone is holding up their hands, saying you're holding a wallet. Now, you're not holding that wallet because of blockchain being applied in enterprise. You're holding that wallet because you're holding assets. And assets sometimes become regulated. Similar as tokens that are holding any kind of value might sooner or later become and move into a regulated environment. So all kinds of traditional finance services around digital assets that Tobias was mentioning, I guess, are getting closer and closer to activities being done in the enterprise world, and investments being done in the space of Web3 might be sooner or later also be related to projects being established within an enterprise setting, especially around music rights and co-ownership of all kinds of digital assets and entertainment. So a question to me here, maybe again to Anna or to anyone else involved in the project there: are you facing any regulatory or legal issues or considerations to make with projects there?
Yes, absolutely. And this is what we have to solve as well. We're in this process, of course, because if we don't find a way to make it really like super proof that this will work for every company, we will, for example, never reach the German Mittelstand. This is just something that we have to deliver. We who create the products and say, okay, we now have this figured out. Now we can sell the product to you and you can use it. It's the same with every other product. I only use Visa because I trust this company. And this factor of trust, I think we companies working together, this is also why we have these industry circles where we talk on that level. If we can deliver that, we show the people who trust us that this works and that we can figure it out. And I think Europe is in a very good position with Mika right now, to be honest. We have made a lot of advantages here where we can really see, okay, this works, this doesn't work. Here we can plan for 5 years. And this helps the companies as well to really move this whole thing forward. And I think this is something for you as well, John.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we see this as well, and I think we just have an additional challenge here, because in everyday life, if we purchase something on the internet or any product like a car or so, we don't really question where all the regulatory frameworks were they compliant with that? Is my car, I don't know, certified, CE certification? We don't question that. We just think, yeah, it's there. But with digital assets in wider society, there will always be a negative sort of aversion, or at least an assumption that something might not be well. So we have the additional task of making sure and communicating it well, so it's being understood by the targeted users that the products are being managed in a safe environment, or that they protect their rights and so on. So this is a duty we have to somehow
And
bear.
we're grateful to the early users like Porsche who did their NFTs, etc. We are very grateful for all of them, Lufthansa now, Starbucks, because we learn from one another. So thank you very much for everybody who's working together, totally for collaboration. And if you want to test it in real life, we now have a Metaverse experience in Cologne at GS1 where you can join us and just test these things as well with your company if you want to.
All right, thank you very much for that pitch. I think we are getting closely to an end. I think just to quickly, recap and to bring it a little bit into perspective, I still believe TradFi and traditional finance investments around digital asset is probably a percentage of 95% at least compared to enterprise investments. So there's still a huge interest there on the transaction of value versus information. Just to perspective. Thank you very much for joining, and it was nice chatting to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.